Hello. Before we even get into this video, I need to give you a little bit of a background on rhythm games. Now, what I consider to be the first rhythm game is called Parappa. You know, the little puppy that wears the hoodie. No, not the hoodie. He wears a beanie hat of some kind. And that was a rhythm game released for the PS1 in 1996. Now, if you go further back enough, you can find other games that resemble rhythm games, but I think by far and large most will agree that Parappa was the first quote-unquote true rhythm game. Next up is Beatmania. This was released in 1997 on an arcade machine, I guess you could call that, by Konami, and that's in 1997 if I didn't say that already. Following this, Harmonix released Frequency in 2001 and Amplitude in 2003 for the PS2. Frequency is the first game and Amplitude is the sequel, which we'll get into here in a little bit. In 2005, Harmonix also released Guitar Hero, which is a game that I really think helped really popularize the whole rhythm game genre. But today we're going to be talking about Harmonix and focusing on Amplitude and Frequency. Because I really feel like that without those two, that Guitar Hero would still exist probably, but I don't think it would have been quite as good. I think that although Amplitude and Frequency were not considered commercial successes, they were still a valuable contribution to the genre. Harmonix was founded in 1995 by Alex, sorry if I'm going to butcher your last name, Rigopoulos, and Aaron Igasi, and again, sorry if I butcher your last name, Aaron, who met while attending at MIT. The two of them teamed up and developed a system that could generate music on the fly, and after graduating they eventually decided to focus their efforts on video games. However, they knew that they could not pursue their ideas in a traditional company, so they made one of their own, i.e. Harmonix. Their first major title was Frequency, which was released for PS2 in 2001. Gameplay consisted of playing notes and different instruments and parts of the song on different tracks. And what you'd have to do is you'd have to complete different patterns and different tasks on different parts of the track in order to keep the song going. Although the game had a cult following and the game was received well, it was not considered a financial success. Now let's talk about Amplitude. Amplitude is a sequel to Frequency. There were quite a few changes from the first game. This included a less tunnel-like gameplay experience. And what I mean by that is if you look at gameplay or play Frequency for yourself, which I do recommend, you'll notice that the entire game, for the most part, takes place in a cylinder, basically. And the creators did this to give it sort of a sci-fi-ish vibe. However, it kind of ended up making things a little bit cramped, and overall, it made the gameplay feel less open. Now, on Amplitude, what they did was they decided to make the tracks pretty much flat. I think there was a tiny bit of a curve in some areas, but I may be wrong. But overall, the more flat area helped make the game feel more open and less cramped. Another significant change they made was including more well-known tracks, and I feel part of the reasoning for doing this was to help broaden the appeal of Amplitude. To sum things up, we have Harmonix to thank for most modern rhythm games out there nowadays, again, such as Rock Band, Guitar Hero, and even Dance Dance Revolution to some extent, or maybe a lesser extent. We have Harmonix to thank. And with that said, thank you for watching. And before I forget, I wanted to mention another game by Harmonix, which is called iToy Antigrav, which is basically, from what I understand, a game where you use an iToy, a PS2 iToy, to move a hoverboard around and duck, avoid obstacles, all using an iToy. And if you have played with an iToy, the PS2 version at least, not the PS3 Move, you know that the iToy and its games are not very good for the most part. I just don't think the technology was there at the time, but from what I've heard, a friend of mine over on Stack Exchange, hey Alamo if you're watching this, it's one of the better games out there, and it's also made by Harmonix, and I might be covering that because I've always had an interest in the PS2 iToy, and I've always wanted to play around with it more. And again, thanks for watching, and have a great night.